Crossing fingers and hoping for no peculiar tech weirdness on this one. Tools, testicles, wallet, watch. Okay. Well, welcome one, welcome all, blah, blah, blah. Y'all know how it goes. Before I jump into anything particular else, I want to answer a question from the chat. Because dear friend and friend of the channel, Brainbug, asked this, which at one level is just Bree being Bree. On the other hand, it's exactly the question. And it's why I put myself through this kind of mess. This kind of mess. Because here's the thing. They're both essentially equally opaque. They're both taken entirely too seriously by entirely too many people, becoming the life's work of entirely too many people. And taught at an unnecessarily, even irresponsibly young age to children. But not a lot of folks running around the hallowed halls of legislature passing laws actively deleterious to the health and or well-being of entire populations of other people based on their personal convictions regarding the motivations of First Mate Starbuck. On the other hand, there's this crap. All of which is to say, more grueling to get through? Honestly, the KJV. It's like one of those, those Twitter constellations of pictures. One gotta go, or you can only keep one, or however it's phrased in that particular iteration. Yeah. You saw which one I just threw up in the air and let bounce down to the floor, and it weren't the search for the whale. Okay, well. And thank you, Bree, for that getting us started with that little question. Special thanks, as always and ever, to my patrons listed at the bottom of the screen on the crawler that goes this, God damn it, this way. I've been out of the pilot chair for a while. And so, of course, coming back, I decided to do 2 full-length streams in one goddamn afternoon because no half measures for me. If you've stuck with us through this first 5 minutes and 58 seconds of the stream, you're either mesmerized by my angelic appearance, intrigued by my ridiculous background, or you've already been watching this shit for 3 years and you knew what you were getting into when you clicked on the button. Or maybe your browser's stuck and it won't let you click back or off or whatever. Regardless, welcome, greetings, salutations. All are welcome, save the bigots. In case you're new, because there's a handful of folk out there who are, including a few who are right new, welcome, y'all. Our shtick here in the library, the Junk Shop Library, is that we read holy texts. So far, we have been slogging our way through the King James Bible and through the Book of Mormon, the very, very shiny Book of Mormon. We read it word for word, inch by inch, and yard by yard, for our sins, with the goal of better understanding it and of holding it up to the scrutiny, ridicule, mockery, and vulgarity it so deserves. Because, as I mentioned a moment ago, folks pass laws based on this crap. Folks wage wars based on this crap. Folks do murder because of this kind of crap. And at one level, it's a know your enemy situation. And at another, it's just kind of good to poke fun at the sacred cows sometimes. The more of us who are out here laughing ourselves shitless, hopefully the more people will stop and think. The life unexamined is a life unlived and all that. All that preamble aside, I want to thank everybody for showing up in the chat. Some folks who were here at the earlier stream today and some folks who were not. Kind of balancing my weird time zone friends here. So I saw some folks from the continent earlier today. Good to see all the regulars and good to see some folks I ain't seen in a minute. Doc Fearsome, Mark Caesar. I hadn't seen either of y'all except down in the comments section. Thank you for that. In quite some time. I want to say hello to my wonderful wife, Julie LaVoice from the Wine and Reason channel. They are sending hearts right, left, and center in the chat. And of course, Brainbug, and of course, Nevermore, and somebody I think I missed. Geo Sam, there we go. Sam with us for the second time today, as a couple of y'all were. Okay. So the Book of Mormon, another testament of Jesus Christ. Of course, if they were releasing it today, they'd be calling it the Book of Latter-day Saints, I suppose. this fucking thing is more of a slog than the Bible. And the Bible is no cakewalk in a field of daisies. This thing is ridiculous. It's impossible to read. It's badly written, seemingly on purpose in an attempt to set up a scenario of it being a laborious layman's translation of ancient texts in a dead language on defunct media. But here we are. Now, having said that, we hadn't been here in quite a minute. I had to go back to the last stream to figure out where in the hell we left off. We're in the book of Jacob, starting in on chapter 4. With each of these chapters, as you may or may not recall, there's essentially front matter. Can't quite get it in focus due to the teeniness of the print and the crappiness of the camera. But as was often common practice in the literature of the time, little bullet pointy chapter summary things at the beginning of each given chapter. For Jacob 4, these are as follows. All the prophets worshipped the Father in the name of Christ. Abraham's offering of Isaac was in similitude of God and his only begotten. Men should reconcile themselves to God through the atonement. The Jews shall reject the foundation stone. Okay, so we can just skip this chapter altogether, right? Because we get the gist of it. Oh, quick content warning. If you're not familiar with the holy text of the Church of Latter-day Saints, this is one of the more racist, like actively, explicitly racist books I've ever heard of. Not just read, heard of. This shit is up there with like the Protocols of the Elders of Zion and that big book by that horrible little man. It's bad. Jacob, chapter 4. Here we go. Now behold, it came to pass that I, Jacob, having ministered much unto my people in word, and I cannot write but a little of my words because of the difficulty of engraving our words upon plates. And we know that the things which we write upon plates must remain, but whatsoever things we write upon anything, save it be upon plates, must perish and vanish away. But we can write a few words upon plates, which will give our children, and also our beloved brethren, a small degree of knowledge concerning us or concerning their fathers. Now in this thing we do rejoice, and we labor diligently to engraven these words upon plates, hoping that our beloved brethren and our children will receive them with thankful hearts, and look upon them that they may learn with joy and not with sorrow, neither with contempt, concerning their first parents. 4. In this intent have we written these things, that they may know that we knew of Christ, and we had a hope of his glory many 100 years before his coming. And not only we ourselves had a hope of his glory, but also all the holy prophets which were before us. Behold, they believed in Christ, and worshipped the Father in his name, and also we worship the Father in his name. And for this intent we keep the law of Moses, it pointing our souls to him. And for this cause it is sanctified unto us for righteousness, even as it was accounted unto Abraham in the wilderness to be obedient unto the commands of God in offering up his son Isaac, which is a similitude of God and his only begotten son. Wherefore, We search the prophets, and we have many revelations and the spirit of prophecy, and having all these witnesses, we obtain a hope, and our faith becometh unshaken, insomuch that we can truly command in the name of Jesus, and the very trees obey us, or the mountains, or the waves of the sea. Nevertheless, our Lord God showeth us our weakness, that we may know that it is by his grace and his great condescensions unto the children of men that we have power to do these things. Behold, great and marvelous are the works of the Lord. How unsearchable are the depths of the mysteries of him. And it is impossible that man should find out all his ways. And no man knoweth of his ways, save it be revealed unto him. Wherefore, brethren, despise not the revelations of God. For behold, by the power of his word, man came upon the face of the earth, which earth was created by the power of his word. Wherefore, if God being able to speak, and the world was, and to speak, and man was created, oh then, why not able to command the earth, or the workmanship of his hands upon the face of it, according to his will and pleasure? Wherefore, brethren, seek not to counsel the Lord, but to take counsel from his hand. For behold, ye yourselves know that he counseleth in wisdom, and in justice, and in great mercy over all his works. Wherefore, beloved brethren, be reconciled unto him through the atonement of Christ, his only begotten Son, and ye may obtain a resurrection, according to the power of the resurrection which is in Christ, and be presented as the firstfruits of Christ unto God, having faith, and obtained a good hope of glory in him before he manifesteth himself in the flesh. And now, beloved, marvel not that I tell you these things, for why not speak of the atonement of Christ, and attain to a perfect knowledge of him, as to attain a knowledge of a resurrection and the world to come? Behold, my brethren, he that prophesieth, let him prophesy to the understanding of men. For the Spirit speaketh the truth, and lieth not. Wherefore, it speaketh of things as they really are, and of things as they really will be. Wherefore, these things are manifested unto us plainly for the salvation of our souls. But behold, we are not witnesses alone in these things, for God also spake them unto the prophets of old. But behold, the Jews were a stiff-necked people, and they despised the words of plainness, and killed the prophets, and sought for things that they could not understand. Wherefore, because of their blindness, which blindness came by looking beyond the mark, they must needs fall. For God hath taken away his plainness from them, and delivered unto them many things which they cannot understand, because they desired it. And because they desired it, God hath done it, that they may stumble. And now I, Jacob, am led on by the Spirit into prophesying, for I perceive by the workings of the Spirit which is in me, that by the stumbling of the Jews they will reject the stone upon which they might build and have safe foundation. But behold, according to the Scriptures, this stone shall become the great, and the last, and the only sure foundation, upon which the Jews can build. And now, my beloved, how is it possible that these, after having rejected the sure foundation, can ever build upon it, that it may become the head of their corner? Behold, my beloved brethren, I will unfold this mystery unto you. If I do not by any means get shaken from my firmness in the Spirit, and stumble because of my over-anxiety for you. And there's Jacob 4. Oh, for fuck's sake. For fuck's sake, I say. Good God, this lighting. Terrible. I wonder, because this was balanced fine earlier when the sun was up, I wonder if I... Oh, that's much better. You can still see my eyes, and I look human. Okay, well, we'll go with that. Dark in here now. Okay. So many things. First, I warned you about the racism. All right. Second, I warned you about how badly written it was, right? I try to read this as it is written so that you can more or less tell where the commas and the em dashes and the semicolons and so forth are. Verses 1 through 3 are a sentence. One. Uno. Solus. Now that doesn't sound bad. 3 verses to 1 sentence. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down, so forth and so on. It's not too bad. But I'm not going to do this every time I run across one of these monster sentences, or we'll never get out of this fucking thing if we live to be 100 years old. But because it was like September the last time we revisited this, just to give you an idea if you don't remember or if you're new. This is what I'm dealing with and why I grouse so much about how badly it's written. Now behold, comma, it came to pass that I, comma, Jacob, comma, having ministered much unto my people in word, comma, open parenthesis, and I cannot write but a little of my words, comma, because of the difficulty of engraving our words upon plates, close parenthesis, and we know that the things which we write upon plates must remain, semicolon, verse 2, but whatsoever things we write upon anything, save it be upon plates, must perish and vanish away, semicolon. But we can write a few words upon plates, comma, which will give our children, comma, and also our beloved brethren, comma, a small degree of knowledge concerning us, comma, or concerning their fathers, em dash. Verse 3. Now in this thing we do rejoice, semicolon, and we labor diligently to engraven these words upon plates, comma, hoping that our beloved brethren and our children will receive them with thankful hearts, comma, and look upon them that they may learn with joy and not with sorrow, comma, neither with contempt, comma, concerning their first parents, period. There's at least one qualified teacher of English in the audience, and yank out all her hair over that. Okay. That aside, this is so stupid. Hey, Maya, what am I reading? A book of fucking Mormon. God help us all. That aside, it is so fucking stupid. Just so blindingly, shriekingly, abysmally, inexcusably stupid. Because remember, if you will, I don't normally fist my beers like that, but I'm also not here to plug particular brands. But the stupid here, of course, is that this purports to have been written around the time of the Babylonian exile. in America. Continental, contiguous United States area of the North American continent by a rogue warlord priest who left Jerusalem before it was sacked, made boats in the Persian Gulf, might as well have flew, I guess, somehow either took said boats across, like, I don't know. Apparently sailed south, clear around the Cape of Good Hope, back up across the ocean into America around the time of the Babylonian exile in little wooden boats made on the shore of the Persian Gulf out of olive wood, I guess? Fig trees? So anyway, they got to North America. They discovered already living here peoples of color, decreed that they were the descendants of Ham, cursed by Noah for the crime of seeing drunk Noah naked. And that's why they live off the land on a different continent that they got to, presumably with more fig tree wood boats. 1,500 years earlier still. Commanded that God had ordained their genocide, proceeded to take over the new promised land, and now Mr. Jacob, who's somewhere in the genealogy that I never really understood to begin with, so don't ask me who Jacob's the son of or father of. If it's important, they'll remind us. Now he's trying to say that all the Old Testament prophets already knew about the passion, death, and resurrection of Jesus, and despite never mentioning him once in the entirety of the Torah, or any subsequent works or commentaries, we're actually really worshiping Jesus the whole time. The way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father but by me. Read in absence of all that backstory. This just reads, this bit that we just read at least, reads like just some other crappy little dead end in the New Testament. The theology is essentially the same. The historical revisionism is essentially the same. The pathological hatred of the Jewish people is essentially the same. It's just more of the same of the more. World without end, amen and amen. But the stupid is that he's trying to have people around the time of the Babylonian exile claim that everything written up unto that point in Jewish culture and canon was actually about Jesus, who they never mentioned, whose divine nature they knew about and worshipped because of, despite the fact that they never said so, that they explicitly rejected said divine Jesus and were damned for it, and now don't know what they're talking about because, having discarded the idea of Jesus, they can't properly interpret the writings that were written by worshipers of Jesus without mentioning said Jesus. Make it make sense. Somebody make it make sense. Any ex-Mormons out there, please, into the comments, help me here, because that's what I'm getting out of this chapter. Jacob 4 is a whole bunch of nothing that attempts to be internally consistent and fails at that so spectacularly that it would almost qualify as a demonstration of internal inconsistency. Like this is the nonsensicalness of this almost seems deliberate. I mean, this is like, Roger Corman never set out to make the next Citizen Kane. Roger Corman knew goddamn well what he was doing. And he did it well. He did exactly what was expected of him because he loved doing it, and no more. That's what this feels like. This feels like somebody actively engaged in trying to write bad Pauline fan fiction, theocratic, theologic mush. It's like a writing exercise. Make it make sense. Mark Caesar, I'll make it make sense. But God, yeah, that's about the size of it, really, really and truly. But like, really, if anybody is watching this who's actually from a Latter-day Saints background, let me know if there's some kind of doctrinal dipsy doodle that sidesteps around the blinding, stupid incongruities and self-contradictions of Jacob chapter 4 specifically. And there's not anything else to this. It's just unbelieving and perverse generation. How long shall I be with you? And also, Jews are bad because they're not Jesus worshipers. That's all. That's all this says. Jacob 4. It's stupid. Chapter 5. Here we go. Jacob quotes Xenos relative to the allegory of the tame and wild olive tree. They are a likeness of Israel and the Gentiles. The scattering and gathering of Israel are prefigured. Allusions are made to the Nephites and Lamanites, and all the house of Israel. Gentiles shall be grafted into Israel. Eventually, the vineyard shall be burned. Jacob 5. Behold, my brethren, do ye not remember to have read the words of the prophet Zenos, when he spake unto the house of Israel, saying, Hearken, O ye house of Israel, and hear the words of me, a prophet of the Lord. For behold, thus saith the Lord, I will liken thee, O house of Israel, like unto a tame olive tree, which a man took and nourished in his vineyard, and it grew and waxed old and began to decay. And it came to pass that the master of the vineyard went forth, and he saw that his olive tree began to decay. And he said, I will prune it and dig about it and nourish it, that perhaps it may shoot forth young and tender branches, and it perish not. And it came to pass that he pruned it and digged about it and nourished it, according to his word. And it came to pass that after many days it began to put forth somewhat a little young and tender branches. But behold, the main top thereof began to perish. And it came to pass that the master of the vineyard saw it, and he said unto his servant, It grieveth me that I should lose this tree. Wherefore, go and pluck the branches from a wild olive tree, and bring them hither unto me, and we will pluck off those main branches which are beginning to wither away, and we will cast them into the fire, that they may be burned. And behold, saith the Lord of the vineyard, I take away many of these young and tender branches, and I will graft them whithersoever I will. And it mattereth not if it so be that the root of this tree will perish. I may preserve the fruit thereof unto myself. Wherefore I will take these young and tender branches, and I will graft them whithersoever I will. Take thou the branches of the wild olive tree, and graft them in the stead thereof. And these which I have plucked off I will cast into the fire and burn them, that they may not cumber the ground of my vineyard. And it came to pass that the servant of the Lord of the vineyard did according to the word of the Lord of the vineyard, and grafted in the branches of the wild olive tree. And the Lord of the vineyard caused that it should be digged about, and pruned, and nourished, saying unto his servant, It grieveth me that I should lose this tree, wherefore that perhaps I might preserve the roots thereof, that they perish not, that I might preserve them unto myself, I have done this thing. Wherefore go thy way, watch the tree, and nourish it, according to my words. And these will I place in the nethermost part of my vineyard, whithersoever I will, it mattereth not unto thee. And I do it that I may preserve unto myself the natural branches of the tree, and also that I may lay up fruit thereof against the season unto myself. For it grieveth me that I should lose this tree and the fruit thereof. And it came to pass that the Lord of the vineyard went his way, and hid the natural branches of the tame olive tree in the nethermost parts of the vineyard, some in one place and some in another, according to his will and pleasure. And it came to pass that a long time passed away. And the Lord of the vineyard said unto his servant, Come, let us go down into the vineyard, that we may labor in the vineyard. And it came to pass that the Lord of the vineyard, and also the servant, went down into the vineyard to labor. And it came to pass that the servant said unto his master, Behold, look here, behold the tree. And it came to pass that the Lord of the vineyard looked, and beheld the tree in which the wild olive branches had been grafted. It had sprung forth and begun to bear fruit, and he beheld that it was good. And the fruit thereof was like unto the natural fruit. And he said unto the servant, Behold, the branches of the wild tree have taken hold of the moisture of the root thereof, that the root thereof hath brought forth much strength, and because of the much strength of the root thereof, the wild branches have brought forth tame fruit. Now, If we had not grafted in these branches, the tree thereof would have perished. And now, behold, I shall lay up much fruit, and the tree thereof hath brought, which the tree thereof hath brought forth, and the fruit thereof I shall lay up against the season unto mine own self. And it came to pass that the Lord of the vineyard said unto the servant, Come, let us go to the nethermost part of the vineyard. And behold, if the natural branches of the tree have not brought forth much fruit also, that I may lay up of the fruit thereof against the season unto mine own self. And it came to pass that they went forth, whither the master had hid the natural branches of the tree. And he said unto the servant, Behold these. And he beheld. The first, that it had brought forth much fruit, and he beheld also that it was good. And he said unto the servant, Take of the fruit thereof, and lay it up against the season, that I may preserve it unto mine own self. For behold, said he, this long time have I nourished it, and it hath brought forth much fruit. And it came to pass that the servant said unto his master, How comest thou hither to plant this tree, or this branch of the tree? For behold, it was the poorest spot in all the land of thy vineyard. And the Lord of the vineyard said unto him, Counsel me not. I knew that it was a poor spot of ground, wherefore I said unto thee, I have nourished it this long time, and thou beholdest that it has brought forth much fruit. And it came to pass that the Lord of the vineyard said unto his servant, Look hither, behold, I have planted another branch of the tree also. And thou knowest that this spot of ground was poorer than the first, but behold, the tree. I have nourished it this long time, and it hath brought forth much fruit. Therefore gather it, and lay it up against a season, that I may preserve it unto mine own self. And it came to pass that the Lord of the vineyard said again unto his servant, Look hither, and behold another branch also, which I have planted. Behold, that I have nourished it also, and that it hath brought forth fruit. And he said unto his servant, Look hither, and behold the last. Behold, this have I planted in a good spot of ground, and I have nourished it this long time, and only a part of the tree hath brought forth tame fruit, and the other part of the tree hath brought forth wild fruit. Behold, I have nourished this tree like unto the others. And it came to pass that the Lord of the vineyard said unto the servant, Pluck off the branches that have not brought forth good fruit, and cast them into the fire. But behold, the servant said unto him, Let us prune it, and dig about it, and nourish it a little longer, that perhaps it may bring forth good fruit unto thee, that thou canst lay it up against the season. And it came to pass that the Lord of the vineyard and the servant of the Lord of the vineyard did nourish all the fruit of the vineyard. And it came to pass that a long time had passed away, and the Lord of the vineyard said unto his servant, Come, let us go down into the vineyard, that we may labor again in the vineyard. For behold, the time draweth near, and the end soon cometh. Wherefore I must lay up fruit against the season unto mine own self. And it came to pass that the Lord of the vineyard and the servant went down into the vineyard, and they came to the tree whose natural branches had been broken off, and the wild branches had been grafted in, and behold, all sorts of fruit did cumber the tree. And it came to pass that the Lord of the vineyard did taste of the fruit, every sort according to its number. And the Lord of the vineyard said, Behold, this long time have we nourished this tree, and I have laid up unto myself against the season much fruit. But behold, this time it hath brought forth much fruit, and there is none of it which is good. And behold, there are all kinds of bad fruit, and it profiteth me nothing, notwithstanding all our labor. And now it grieveth me that I should lose this tree. And the Lord of the vineyard said unto the servant, What shall we do unto the tree, that I may preserve again good fruit thereof unto mine own self? And the servant said unto his master, Behold, because thou didst graft in the branches of the wild olive tree, they have nourished the roots, that they are alive, and they have not perished. Wherefore thou beholdest that they are yet good. And it came to pass that the Lord of the vineyard said unto his servant, The tree profiteth me nothing, and the roots thereof profiteth me nothing, so long as it shall bring forth evil fruit. Nevertheless, I know that the roots are good, and for mine own purpose I have preserved them, because of their much great strength they have hitherto brought forth from the wild branches good fruit. But behold, the wild branches have grown and overrun the roots thereof, and because that the wild branches have overcome the roots thereof, it hath brought forth much evil fruit. And because that it hath brought forth so much evil fruit, thou beholdest that it beginneth to perish, and it will soon become ripened, that it may be cast into the fire, except we should do something for it to preserve it. And it came to pass that the Lord of the vineyard said unto his servant, Let us go down into the nethermost parts of the vineyard, and behold, if the natural branches have also brought forth evil fruit. And it came to pass that they went down into the nethermost part of the vineyard. And it came to pass that they beheld that the fruit of the natural branches had become corrupt also. Yea, the first and the second, and also the last, they had all become corrupt. And the wild fruit of the last had overcome what part of the tree which brought forth good fruit, even that the branch had withered away and died. And it came to pass that the Lord of the vineyard wept, and said unto the servant, What could I have done more for my vineyard? Behold, I knew that all the fruit of the vineyard, save it were these, had become corrupted, and now those which have once brought forth good fruit have also been corrupted, and now all the trees of my vineyard are good for nothing, save to be hewn down and cast into the fire. And behold, this last, whose branch hath withered away, I did plant in a good spot of ground, yea, even that which was choice unto me, above all other parts of the land of my vineyard. And thou beheldest that I also cut down that which cumbered this spot of ground, that I might plant this tree in the stead thereof. And thou beheldest that a part thereof brought forth good fruit, and a part thereof brought forth wild fruit. And because I plucked not from the branches thereof, and cast them into the fire, behold, they have overcome the good branch that it had withered away. And now behold, notwithstanding all the care which we have taken of my vineyard, that they bring forth no good fruit. And these I had hoped to preserve, to have laid up fruit against the season unto mine own self. But behold, they become like unto the wild olive tree, and they are of no worth, but to be hewn down and cast into the fire, and it grieveth me that I should lose them. But what could I have done more in my vineyard? Have I slackened mine hand, that I have not nourished it? Nay, I have nourished it, and I have digged about it, and I have pruned it, and I have dunged it, and I have stretched forth mine hand almost all the day long, and the end draweth nigh, and it grieveth me that I should hew down all the trees of my vineyard and cast them into the fire, that they should be burned. Who is it that hath corrupted my vineyard? And it came to pass, the servant said unto his master, Is it not the loftiness of thy vineyard? Have not the branches thereof overcome the roots which are good? And because the branches have overcome the roots thereof, behold, they grow faster than the strength of the roots, taking strength unto themselves. Behold, I say, is not this the cause that the trees of thy vineyard have been corrupted? And it came to pass that the Lord of the vineyard said unto the servant, Let us go to, and hew down the trees of the vineyard, and cast them into the fire, that they shall not cumber the ground of my vineyard. For I have done all. What could I have done more for my vineyard? But behold, the servant said unto the Lord of the vineyard, Spare it a little longer. And the Lord said, Yea, I will spare it a little longer, for it grieveth me that I should lose the trees of my vineyard. Wherefore let us take of the branches of these which I have planted in the nethermost parts of my vineyard, and let us graft them into the tree from whence they came, and let us pluck from the tree those branches whose fruit is most bitter, and graft in the natural branches of the tree in the stead thereof. And this will I do, that the tree may not perish, that perhaps I may preserve unto myself the roots thereof for mine own purpose. And behold, the roots of the natural branches of the tree which I planted whithersoever I would are yet alive. Wherefore, that I may preserve them also for mine own purpose, I will take of the branches of this tree, and I will graft them in unto them. Yea, I will graft in unto them the branches of their mother tree, that I may preserve the roots also unto mine own self, that when they shall be sufficiently strong, perhaps they may bring forth good fruit unto me, and I may yet have glory in the fruit of my vineyard. Apparently we're having some focus issues. I don't know. I've got too deep a background is what's going on. I'm sorry. And it came to pass that they took from the natural tree, which had become wild, and grafted in unto the natural trees, which also had become wild. And they also took of the natural tree, which had become wild, and grafted into their mother tree. And the Lord of the vineyard said unto the servant, Pluck not the wild branches from the trees, save it be those which are most bitter. And in them ye shall graft according to that which I have said. And we will nourish again the trees of the vineyard, and we will trim up the branches thereof, and we will pluck from the trees those branches which are ripened that must perish, and cast them into the fire. And this I do, that perhaps the roots thereof may take strength because of their goodness, and because of the change of the branches, that the good may overcome the evil. And because that I have preserved the natural branches and the roots thereof, and that I have grafted in the natural branches again into their mother tree, and have preserved the roots of their mother tree, that perhaps the trees of my vineyard may bring forth again good fruit, and that I may have joy again in the fruit of my vineyard, and perhaps that I may rejoice exceedingly that I have preserved the roots and the branches of the first fruit. Wherefore go to, and call servants, that we may labor diligently with our might in the vineyard, that we may prepare the way, that I may bring forth again the natural fruit, whose natural fruit is good, and the most precious above all other fruit. Wherefore, let us go to and labor with our might this last time, for behold, the end draweth nigh, and this is for the last time that I shall prune my vineyard, graft in the branches, begin at the last, that they may be first, and that the first may be last, and dig about the trees, both old and young, the first and the last, and the last, and the first, that all may be nourished once again for the last time. Wherefore, dig about them, and prune them, and dung them once more for the last time. For the end draweth nigh. My camera's frozen. God damn it. And if it be so that these last grafts shall grow, and bring forth the natural fruit, then shall ye prepare the way for them, that they may grow. And as they begin to grow, ye shall clear away the branches which bring forth bitter fruit, according to the strength of the good and the size thereof, and ye shall not clear away the bad thereof all at once, lest the roots thereof be too strong for the graft, and the graft thereof shall perish, and I lose the trees of my vineyard. For it grieveth me that I should lose the trees of my vineyard. Wherefore ye shall clear away the bad, according as the good shall grow, that the root and the top may be equal in strength, until the good shall overcome the bad, and the bad be hewn down and cast into the fire, that they cumber not the ground of my vineyard. And thus will I sweep away the bad out of my vineyard. And the branches of the natural tree I will graft in again unto the natural tree, and the branches of the natural tree will I graft into the natural branches of the tree. And thus will I bring them together again, that they shall bring forth the natural fruit, and they shall be one. And the bad shall be cast away, yea, even out of all the land of my vineyard, for behold, only this once will I prune my vineyard. And it came to pass that the Lord of the vineyard sent his servant, and the servant went and did as the Lord had commanded him, and brought other servants, and they were few. And the Lord of the vineyard said unto them, Go to, and labor in the vineyard with your might, for behold, this is the last time that I shall nourish my vineyard. For the end is nigh at hand, and the season speedily cometh. And if ye labor with your might with me, ye shall have joy in the fruit which I shall lay up unto myself against the time which will soon come. And it came to pass that the servants did go and labor with their mights, and the Lord of the vineyard labored also with them, and they did obey the commandments of the Lord of the vineyard in all things. And there began to be the natural fruit again in the vineyard, and the natural branches began to grow and thrive exceedingly, and the wild branches began to be plucked off and to be cast away. And they did keep the root and the top thereof according to the strength thereof. And thus they labored with all diligence, according to the commandments of the Lord of the vineyard, even until the bad had been cast away out of the vineyard, and the Lord had preserved unto himself that the trees had become again the natural fruit. And they became like unto one body, and the fruits were equal. And the Lord of the vineyard had preserved unto himself the natural fruit, which was most precious unto him from the beginning. And it came to pass that when the Lord of the vineyard saw that his fruit was good, and that his vineyard was no more corrupt, he called up his servants, and said unto them, Behold, for this last time have we nourished my vineyard, and thou beholdest that I have done according to my will, and I have preserved the natural fruit, that it is good, even like as it was in the beginning, and blessed art thou. For because ye have been diligent in laboring with me in my vineyard, and have kept my commandments, and have brought unto me again the natural fruit, that my vineyard is no more corrupted, and the bad is cast away, behold, ye shall have joy with me, because of the fruit of my vineyard. For behold, for a long time will I lay up of the fruit of my vineyard unto mine own self, against the season which speedily cometh. And for the last time have I nourished my vineyard, and pruned it, and dug about it, and dunged it. Wherefore I will lay up unto mine own self of the fruit for a long time, according to that which I have spoken. And when the time cometh that evil fruit shall again come into my vineyard, then will I cause the good and the bad to be gathered. And the good will I preserve unto myself, and the bad I will cast away into its own place. And then cometh the season and the end, and my vineyard will I cause to be burned with fire. And that's Jacob chapter 5. Which is not how plants work. Like at all. As a farmer would know. That was the most labored attempt at a parable I have ever heard. Have you ever heard, read, or heard rumor of a parable that labored and bad and poorly conceived and ill executed and just stupid? I mean, we get it, right? You notice he didn't even bother to include an interpretation. He just told his story and left it to the goodwill and intelligence of his audience. No, no, Mark, it's not a buffering problem. I'm just speaking slowly for emphasis in those cases. Though, given the interesting tech history of this channel, you are not unjustified in asking that question. Mark's been with us for a while. Okay. So, I mean, this is obviously, this is to do with the continual locating and relocating and relocating and relocating of the Jewish people, and also now, you know, this order of Melchizedek, who's ended up in America with a genocide mandate, and also one someday to return the entire nation of Israel unto its original Jesus, and thence heavenward. Which is all well and good. stupid, factually inaccurate, intolerant with a soupçon of racism, but all well and good as far as it goes, except that, as I mentioned a moment ago, that's not how plants work. So what this doofus farmer does, Lord of the Vineyard, what Squeegee the Happy Clown here does is he has a tree that he likes that gets sick. So he takes some of the branches and cuts them off and plants them other places and takes care of them. Well, that's all well and good. You can force reproduction of propagate. Propagate is the word I'm looking for. You can propagate a lot of plants using this method. But then he's got good roots with no branches. So he tells his servant, go somewhere and find me a wild variety of this plant. Get some branches from it and graft it onto the tree, onto the trunk, which is all well and good. You can do that with some varieties of plants. And that's the last fucking thing in this story that makes any goddamn sense. Because what happens next? They get some branches from the wild version of this plant. They graft it onto the trunk of the main tree. Those branches begin to bring forth fruit of the cultivated variety because they've partaken of the precious bodily fluids of the roots, and now they make domestic fruit varieties, which is awesome. It's not how plants work, but it's awesome. The farmer's very happy. So he goes out to check on these plantlings he has made. And lo and behold, they've grown up and they're bearing fruit as well, after their kind, unsurprisingly. And he says, yay! And after a while, he checks back in on the main tree and it started producing weird fruit that tastes bad. So he says, well, this isn't good. I wonder what happened here. And he comes to the conclusion that the tree is now bearing exclusively wild varieties of the fruit, despite having originally produced on the same branches domestic varieties on branches that were harvested from wild varieties of tree and grafted on. So he says, here's what we'll do. We'll cut off the branches of this tree, and we'll take the plantlings that we sprouted from cuttings from this tree, and we'll graft them back on and we'll get good fruit again. Well, duh. I mean, it's not how plants work, because what he's trying to do is take fruit-bearing branches from one tree, graft them on to the trunk of another tree and be surprised that the fruit stays the same. And this keeps going the same way. For verses and verses and pages, he keeps doing this shit, and the exact opposite thing happens of what a tree would do in every instance, and he's surprised that he doesn't get the opposite results of what a tree should do, despite being a lord of the vineyard. This is his job. This is how he makes his living, is doing plant shit. And he thinks there's some magical essence in the root of a tree that dictates what kind of fruit another kind of tree's branches will bear if grafted on, unless the branches that are grafted on are sufficiently evil, in which case you will get evil fruit off of good branches of the same tree, because the evil nature of the wild branches will take over the precious bodily fluids of the roots and make evil fruit happen all over the tree. Which is fine, because you can cut all the branches off, replace them with good branches, and the good precious bodily fluids of the good branches will take over the evil bodily fluids that have taken over the good fluids of the root, and the whole tree will be fine again and bring forth good fruit that he can store up for himself against the season that is coming. That's not how plants work. That's not how anything works. And it gets stupider. The more you think about it, the doofusier it gets. Because think about this. This story is a parable in this verse, in the world of the Book of Mormon. This story is being told by a Bronze Age Semitic person in North America. But a farmer, a career plant person, and you know what plant people understand real good? Propagation and pollination. Even more so do people understand pollination and propagation who were writing in the American territories in the year of our Lord 1830. Joseph Smith slaved over creating this labored parable in 1829. And apparently thought this was a good idea. that communicated what he wanted it to. And one that could be preached to a populace of largely illiterate farmers. Try telling this story as an object lesson to a farmer and see how far you get. This is how, and yet it keeps on going on. I mean, some of Jesus's parables were a bit of a stretch, but at least they only take a few sentences. The prodigal son is the long one. Most of the time, it's just, if salt has lost its flavor, it ain't got much in its favor. This book is bad. And I haven't even touched yet on like the rampagey genocides of the early days of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. We're just talking about the foundational text and how badly written it is. People take this shit seriously. There were massacres done in the name of this book. Like in relatively modern history. Like, we've got photographs of some of these people, or daguerreotypes, tintypes or something, at the very least. Oh, very clever. Very clever. I see what you did there. I see what you did there. This stream has turned salty. Yes, yes. It's very, yes, we are communicating. Okay, so I mean, the long and the short of this derpy little story is A, that it's at least 5 times as long as it has any right to be. B, there's the fact that apparently this man's miraculous vineyard has a minimum of 3 fruiting cycles a year, like entirely new buds and fruit and flowers and shit. A minimum of 3 fruiting cycles in a year. Because remember, this whole shit kicked off with him wanting to harvest the fruit so he'd have it over the winter. So this shit all goes down between fruiting season and harvest of 1 year. It takes about that long to read. Hey, Ox, good to see you. It has been a hot minute. We have had no smiting on this stream, just some bad husbandry takes. God, I look pensive in this frozen frame we're all looking at here. We need some smiting. Yes, yes, we do. I had some smiting in the earlier stream, had full-on prophecy massacre. The thing is, if this story were in the Bible, I would almost be tempted to give it a pass on being included, because some stuff ended up in the Bible because some Mitch McConnelly motherfucker just dug in his heels in committee and would not let the thing go until his personal favorite story was announced to be canon. or vice versa, which is such a spectacular and funny little story as Bel and the Dragon didn't end up in the King James Bible for no readily discernible reason. Because one, it is some funny shit, and for another, it's actually pretty solid theology from an Abrahamic religion's perspective. Well, I talk about that story all the time. I'll do a separate stream on that at some point. But we don't have that excuse for this story. This story, like everything else in this, let's see, not counting the glossary and index and shit, which takes up like the, Jesus Christ, like the last third of this book. This is nowhere near as long a book as I thought it was. 531 pages, with the lower third of each page being taken up by like cross-referencing material and stuff. This is a rinky-dink little book, y'all. Everything in here all springs from the mind of one prophet / con man. He, not they, not them all. He, Joey Smith, Old Man Joe, thought it was a good idea to take up that much space in the book he wanted to be his legacy with this story to be preached to farmers. It's stupid enough in isolation and as vague as it is. But Mark Caesar in the chat gave an example a minute ago that, yes, if you have a citrus tree, like a lemon tree or a lime tree, you can take a lime tree branch, graft it onto the lemon tree, and you'll have lemons and limes on the same tree. And that's all well and good. That's fine. It's a more efficient use of ground space. That's why they do it. 2 for the price of 1. Bag of fertilizer. But what you don't get is the evil essence of the lime, hijacking the precious bodily fluids of the tree and making some awful hybrid that is neither lemon nor lime and good for nothing at all. That's not how plants work.
That's not how plants work.
Well, we had Mayhem in the earlier stream today. In a beautiful chef's kissy moment of cosmic coincidence, Old Man Joe and the Book of Mormon has arrived late in the day to provide us with the Foolishness. www.mayhemandfoolishnessproductions.com. It's still out there. It's out of date, and I need to update it, but it's out there. I I got nothing. I got nothing else. I don't dare start another chapter because that last one was like 4 fucking pages long, and I don't want to be here till Tuesday. Thank y'all for coming. It's so good to see everybody. Some folks I haven't seen in a goddamn month of Sundays. Maya, Ox, Mark, Doc. Nevermore, I see you all the time. You don't count. Who else? There was somebody else bopping around here. I'm scrolling the chat now, if it'll let me go back far enough. Let's see. My dear Julie, of course. Doc, yeah, I said Doc. Geo-Sam. Geo-Sam. Oh, like I knew there was somebody else up here. Geo-Sam. All right. Well, I think... Hear you again. Yeah. Well, there was seeing of me earlier before my high-tech, spare no expense little camera decided to run off to join the circus. Until we congregate again. Y'all know how it goes. Everybody take care. And be safe. And stand against hate. And we will see y'all again, hopefully soon. So